Hello everyone and welcome back to Sudden Wealth. I know it's been a few days since I posted. Look guys, I've been on holiday over the past few days and I thought, look, I really need a little bit of time to relax and to recoup, regain some strength. It's been a very busy year for me this year. Good busy, but it also takes a little bit of a toll on me. And I'm just human and I also need some time, to relax and to chill a bit. So I hope you guys forgive me for that. If you do enjoy the content, please consider dropping that like and subscribe. It greatly helps the channel, and as you know, is the only thing that I ask. Now let's get straight to it. On the back of the lower than expected numbers on inflation last year, where the government took out coffee because otherwise it would make the CPI look too high. This was what I was been referring to, which is once the Fed decides that they're going to cut rates, they just need to come up with ways to show inflation numbers that allow for rate cuts. So if next time they need to remove something else, if they need to change the methodology of calculation, if they need to say that actually 3% is the target and not 2, whatever the case may be, they will come up with the excuse to do it. The reason being very simple. With the amounts of debt that the economy has, there's no way we can have high interest rates for a long time. And the Fed knows it. It's a mathematical problem. It's not an opinion or a political problem. It is just a matter of numbers. Otherwise, the numbers no longer add up. And I actually say that we don't need zero interest rates. We need negative interest rates, which doesn't mean high inflation. It means high asset prices. That's it. Money supply goes up. Banks are the intermediaries. The top 20% gets all the benefit. The bottom 80% does not move. That's it. The last 30 years of Japan, the last 15 years of Europe and the US and Australia, etc. And the last 12 years of China. All of them show the same thing. Now, fortunately, we are in crypto, at least I am in crypto, which means that for us, we have the best asset class to dwell in these environments. Why? Very simple. Crypto has no overhead cost. When you have a company, you have overhead costs. You have expenses, you have R&D, you have employees, you have management salaries, you have to buy equipment, you have to buy blah, blah, blah. What is the overhead cost in Bitcoin? Well, the mining, but in Ethereum, that cost is a little fraction, and that's one of the reasons why I say that Ethereum is better than Bitcoin, and we'll be going into that in a little while. But overall, the reasons why crypto does the best is because it's the smallest asset class, which means any trillion is very relevant, as opposed to, let's say, the bond market, which is almost $500 trillion. So 1 trillion in that market doesn't even barely move the price, but in the market of 2 or 3 trillion like crypto, it is a big deal. Number two, as I mentioned, we don't have all these overhead costs. Number three, and this is the problem of gold, is that the higher the gold price goes, the more incentive the miners have to mine as much gold as possible and dump it on the market as quickly as possible. That's their incentive. They don't hold gold in their balance sheet as cash equivalent. They could. If the gold miners actually believed that gold was money, they could hold it as opposed to holding, let's say, cash. They could hold, or bonds or treasuries, they could hold gold as reserves. Meaning they could mine it and then sell as little as possible just to cover for, dividends, debt service, operational costs, all of these things, and keep gold if they thought it was money. But when like the Bitcoin miners do, Bitcoin miners try to hold as much Bitcoin as possible, and they sell whatever they need to sell in order to cover for the electricity bill, for the mining hardware, etc. While the gold miners, they don't. Their incentive is, if the gold price goes up, is mine, dump, mine, dump on the market. That's it. So gold is not the answer. Real estate. Real estate is a good answer. Problem. Not so liquid, hard to move. When you buy property in Germany, it's very hard to move it, or impossible even, to move it to the US. So you have that issue happening over there. Why is stocks also not as great as crypto? Because stocks represent companies which have overhead costs, but most importantly, most relevant, as the price of stocks go up, the incentive is to issue more shares. Look at Nvidia. Nvidia did brilliantly once again. What are they doing? Stock split, issuing shares, as they should. They should take advantage of raising capital, of their stock price exploding, to raise capital. Sure, I don't see any problem with it. The problem is, if you're holding the asset, for long-term store of value, it is not as good as crypto, which has, the real crypto, not the fake one, in which you have defined rules, inflation levels, or deflation even. That's why crypto outperforms everything. And now, you guys know that I've been predicting that Ethereum should outperform Bitcoin. I said within the first quarter of 2024. I admit I underestimated the impact of the Bitcoin ETFs, or at least I thought that once the market saw the Bitcoin ETFs, that Ethereum would be almost immediately following up, because it's very clear that Ethereum was going to get the ETF as well, which now everybody seems to believe what I've been saying for a long time, which is Ethereum will get the spot ETF. Now people are saying, oh yeah, but Michael Saylor said that there was no way Ethereum's going to get ETF, and by the summer it would be a security, blah, blah, blah. It would be clear to be a security. And people took his word for granted. Now what you need to understand is Michael Saylor a good force for crypto in general? Yes, because he's a big advocate for Bitcoin, and a rising tide lifts all boats. But you also need to understand he's a Bitcoin maxi. So he will never say that anything is positive for Ethereum. Everything is negative. Doesn't matter what it is. It can be the best thing possible. It's all negative. So when people take those things too seriously, they unfortunately get surprised on the other side. In my view, Ethereum should have outperformed already in the first quarter. However, we started in May. We are now, year to date, Ethereum is gaining 4 or 5% on Bitcoin. I think that difference will widen. I still think the Ethereum ETF will be a buy the rumor, sell the news event. There's expectations that the Ethereum ETF will be approved tonight. Even if it's not a big deal. And the reason is very simple. The way that the SEC is engaging with the Ethereum ETF filings, the fact that BlackRock is involved with a 99 point something percent approval rate in ETFs, but the way that the SEC is giving feedback, the way that the SEC is engaging, and now the recent crypto bill passed in the US government, very much in favor of crypto. The fact that Trump is in favor of crypto, the fact that the Democrats seem to understand now that crypto is a big subject, much bigger than they thought. So they're also changing the tunes as this crypto bill that I'm talking about got bipartisan. Both parties agreed on it. The SEC is not looking to get embarrassed in court again. The SEC failed to label XRP, which is the most security-like crypto or famous crypto that we have out there, and they failed it. So they don't want to add another lost case into the trial. So in my view, the ETF is coming. Now I thought it was going to come closer to August. If it comes in May, that's also fine. I mean, this is my point. 2025. Don't get lost in these 8 weeks, 6 weeks, 4 weeks, 3 weeks, 12 weeks. My God, the same thing. Andy, you guys know that I'm big on Andy on Ethereum. I got in at $1.5 million market cap, disclosed it here in this channel, rode it down to 300K market cap, and then it went to 150 million market cap. Then it sold off to 40 million market cap, and it's now close to 100 million market cap once again. Why didn't I panic? Why didn't I sell everything? Because to me, Andy is a leverage play on Pepe. Pepe is the spear, is the leader, and the other ones are followers and leverage on Pepe. So that's my play. That's my lottery ticket. Also, I already sold quite a bit of it, which means all my lottery tickets are now dramatically in profit, and I'm still very much in profit in Andy, but I won't sell it until I'm not convinced that Pepe has done its all-time high, because the other ones are just leverage on Pepe, and I think that's going to happen in 2025, maybe late 2024. Hard to say. We need to analyze a bit further into the year. But the point is, when you have a good target on your mind, even when I was wrong, I said Bitcoin was going to go to 47 to 52K. Okay, it stopped at 56 and a half. While everybody else was telling you 100K Bitcoin, said, no, we're going to sell off. The same way that I think if the Ethereum ETF is approved, it's going to be a buy the rumor, sell the news event. I think you're going to have a bit of a sell-off. I think you're going to have a big spike, and then you're going to have somewhat of a cooling off, of a sell-off. That's fine. It's not a big deal. If you look 2025, that's my target. So I don't care about all these weekly movements. Now, Ethereum, in my view, is better than Bitcoin. I've said this before, because operationally speaking, it doesn't have the issues that Bitcoin has. So Bitcoin had 2 inflation bugs, where anyone could mint as much Bitcoin as they wanted for free. One of them was minted, was exercised, but the chain was new, was back in 2010, so they just came up with a new chain and that was it. And the other one was 2018, which was discovered by a Bitcoin Cash developer, and they disclosed it and they patched it up. Ethereum doesn't have those kind of issues. Number 2, Bitcoin is not decentralized. What do you mean? Bitcoin is decentralized in terms of ownership. So a lot of people around the world own Bitcoin, but not that many. About 2,000 wallets, 2,500 wallets control 40-something% of the supply. But it is more decentralized than Ethereum in that sense. But Ethereum, as operationally, is much more decentralized. You see, Bitcoin has 4 or 5 mining pools, 3 or 4 mining hardware companies. That's it. It's all centralized on that. All the operation part of Bitcoin is completely centralized. While Ethereum has stakers and validators all around the world, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of them. So in that perspective, it's much more decentralized. And also you need to understand what's happening, right? You have mining hardware, you solve a problem, and you have a Bitcoin at the end. What you do with that Bitcoin? You need to sell part of it to pay for electricity and hardware equipment. Ethereum doesn't have that cost. Actually, most of the times, Ethereum is actually deflationary. So in my view, I would not be surprised at all. I would say probably is even likely that Ethereum will outflip Bitcoin as the number 1 coin. Maybe even this cycle, or maybe the next cycle. Ethereum has all the developers. It is what it is. Now, does that mean that I want Bitcoin to get destroyed? No, I don't want it to get destroyed. I'm just saying the reason why I believe Ethereum is better. And there's something that happened that you people should pay attention to. You know that I'm always here, so I pay attention to all of this. When Bitcoin was 17 to 25,000, BlackRock and the other ETF filers were acquiring and buying a lot of Bitcoin in preparation of the ETFs. And what happened at that time? Bad news about Bitcoin. All of a sudden, poof, all positive news about Bitcoin. All of a sudden, the ETF that is rumored to be approved with a very high likelihood of that happening. And then we discover later that those good news start to pop up after the people filing the ETFs already secured their bags. You see, can I prove that the news are disseminated by these entities? Of course not. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I'm just saying, look how coincident, how the timing is perfect. So when the price is low, so they can accumulate a lot of Bitcoin, you only see bad news and everything is bad around Bitcoin. All of a sudden, everything becomes positive. The SEC becomes much more open for the Bitcoin ETF, and coincidentally, the Bitcoin ETF providers already had accumulated the majority of their Bitcoin for the ETFs. Now, what we have now? Bad news after bad news after bad news after bad news about Ethereum. And all of a sudden, Ethereum positive news start to pop up completely out of nowhere. And I get the feeling that when the ETFs launch, and we can check the addresses and do all of that, I get the feeling that those addresses have been accumulating during the time period where it was bad news after bad news after bad news, and they kind of stopped buying, or they had the majority of their position set up right before the positive news came out. All of a sudden, the positive news came out of nowhere. The SEC is much more friendly to Ethereum. And I get the feeling that the ETF providers already have their position secured. Can I prove any of this? Of course I can't. I mean, well, one part's going to be factual because you'll be able to check it on chain. But will I be able to prove that there's some sort of conspiracy around this? No. But once you've seen these markets as long as I did, I just don't believe in coincidences anymore. It's just okay, let's call it extremely timely convenience. I think that's a fair judgment. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I'm just pointing out that I find it quite interesting and quite, quite convenient, the timing of all these little pieces coming together. But with that, guys, that I'm going to leave that for another video. I'm planning to do a live stream next week, or even this weekend, but probably next week. And with that, guys, I'll leave you be. Thank you very much for your support. Thank you for bearing these few days without me. And I hope and I wish that you guys have a very good evening. Drop the like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.